Hello there, and welcome to another edition of Hashtag Now Smoking. I'm Gary Korb, your host from cigaradvisor.com. And today we have another very special show. We're going to be talking Macanudo Inspirado cigars with General Cigar Ambassador Laurel Tilley. And our feature cigar today will be the Macanudo Inspirado Green. It's a brand new cigar from them. So
Yes.
Laurel, welcome to the show, and tell us a little bit about Macanudo Inspirado Green.
All right, thank you, Gary. Happy to be here. So the Macanudo Inspirado Green, it is the newest addition to the Inspirado series. We haven't yet released it yet. We're looking for an early summer release, hopefully around like mid-June. So it's going to fall kind of in the middle of the profile as far as body. So similar to that of our Inspirado Black and that kind of medium plus range. It's the first time we've ever used Brazilian Arapiraca tobacco for Macanudo. So it uses Brazilian Arapiraca tobacco for the wrapper. We're using Indonesian tobacco for the binder, and then Dominican and Colombian for the filler. So you have those really nice quintessential notes that Brazilian tobacco is going to deliver. So the earthiness, the sweetness, the spiciness, very complex. I love it. I've smoked probably a box in the last 2 weeks on top of everything else I've been smoking. So I'm very, very excited about it. And it looks like you're about to light one up too. Is this the first time you've had one?
No, actually, I had one the other day, and I thought it was really nice. In fact, I'm really glad you guys are even doing a Brazilian, because that was the one, seemed to be the one element that was missing in the line. And we'll get into the whole line. We'll talk about all of them. But I'm just, going to inspect it here, as I usually do. And it's really nice and firm. It's I don't see any soft spots. It's got a really nice cap here, I see. It's like a triple seamer. And tobaccos look nice, well packed in there, and I'm going to clip it.
I'm sorry, I started my cigar too early. I should have waited.
Oh, that's okay. It's okay. No, that's fine, because you do that all the time. And I'll just bring my ashtray over here, and let's see how the draw is. Oh wow, perfect draw. Really nice, and I'm getting getting a really distinctive leathery note. Do you notice that?
A little bit, yes. On the cold draw, I get a little bit more sweetness, actually.
Well, it is kind of sweet, but I really get that, I guess, aroma smell.
Okay.
Or aroma taste, I should say. I really get that aroma taste of leather.
Okay.
Like a new handbag, or I walked into, like a Coach store or something,
Sure, like you're sitting in your brand new luxury car.
Yeah,
You're just overwhelmed by leather.
And I got that on the last one too. So, and that's not bad, because leather is a very common taste in cigars, and I think it's actually one of the better ones, really. So
well, there you go. At least it's consistent.
Yeah, and that's very important too. So we're going to light this baby up. I can't see my flame because I'm on the border of the garage here.
Is the weather there nice enough to smoke outside?
Well, it's warm enough. It's supposed to get up to 58 today, but it's only around 51 right now.
Oh, that's not bad.
So I've got like 6 layers on.
Nice.
So I'm fine. Let me see the initial flavors. It has a really good draw, so the smoke comes out really nice through the head there. It's really nice. I'd say I'm getting kind of like a spiciness, like, some peppery stuff there. Some earthiness.
And it's interesting that you talk about the smoke, because I did a video review on this a couple of weeks ago. That's something that I touched on, is that it produces a lot of smoke, more so than the other Inspirado line. So for a lot of people, the smoke quality or the amount of smoke it produces is actually very, very important. So this is definitely going to be in your wheelhouse if you like that fuller smoke production from a cigar.
Yeah, it does have, everyone likes to have a nice draw, and it really is a good draw. It's not too loose, it's not too tight, it's just right. So that's important. And of course, you wouldn't expect anything less from Macanudo than a well-made cigar. So, let's get that out of the way, because that's a fact. And let's see what else I can say about it. Well, the aroma. I know cigars always smell differently outside for me for some reason.
Oh yeah, I mean it smells very different before you light it than it does post light. But I think aroma wise, it really you get a little bit more of the sweetness in the aroma. Um,
Hmm.
like right off the bat, like I said, if you draw on it dry, I get the sweetness there, and then I get more of the sweetness in the aroma after it's lit as well. But I'm only about what I'd say like maybe an inch in here, and it
Oh, okay.
starts to the pepper, you get a little bit more spiciness off the bat, and then it starts to subdue a little bit, and then you get more of that earthiness and the sweetness kicking in full force.
Okay. Well, anyway, let us talk a little bit about the Inspirado line itself. Now,
Sure.
there are now, I believe, we have 5 different variations of it.
Correct. 5 full run. Technically, our Palladium that we did last year that will be coming back as a
Oh,
yearly
yeah.
release
Right.
is also under
Okay.
the Inspirado line.
Hmm. Yeah, I saw an
So,
ad for that actually the other day.
sorry, what?
I saw an ad for it the other day.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
Yeah, so
tell
we've
us, take us through the line then, Laurel. Take us,
sure.
starting with the white and then.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just going to I'll actually give you a brief little history on the series for
Oh
those who
yeah,
don't
even
know.
better, because we always
So,
do a little backstory. So I'll let you handle that. Go ahead.
cool. Yeah, so the Inspirado line is relatively new for Macanudo. It originally all started in 2014 in our European market with the Inspirado Orange. So it was originally blended for Cubans or for our European market to compete against Cubans. So we used different tobaccos, more complex blending. And then with the success of that in 2016, we brought it to the United States, which is where it received the top 25 rating in Cigar Aficionado, which was amazing for us. So the orange kind of kicked everything off. And then the black and the white came at the trade show in 2017, and then in March of 2018 we did the red, and then now June of 2020 we will do the green, and then in the interim there we had the palladium. So it's all happened in a fairly short span considering how long the brand has been around. I mean, we acquired Macanudo in 1968 and started seeing it in the States in 71. So it's been around for a very, very long time. It's been around as a brand even longer than that. The white is going to be the most mellow. We use a Connecticut shade wrapper that we grow in Ecuador and what I affectionately like to call a mountain bowl. So that particular region gets about 300 days of natural cloud coverage a year. So typically shade-grown tobacco in Central America is grown under cheesecloth, and then in the United States, we grow it under like a very thin sheet of plastic. But in Ecuador, where that wrapper is grown, it gets enough natural cloud coverage that we don't have to do any sort of artificial covering, which is awesome. So the white is going to be mellower, but it's a really good embodiment of being a fuller flavor cigar without being terribly strong. A lot of people think that body and flavor are synonymous, which is just not always the case. I smoke a ton of those cigars. So kind of going on the scale from mellow to most full-bodied, starting with the white. The next would be the orange, which was the original Inspirado series. That's going to be primarily Honduran, medium-bodied, a little bit of natural sweetness. It's a very complex cigar, very dynamic. It changes as you smoke it. And it's kind of what I would describe as like a catch-all cigar for any person in their journey of smoking. So if you're a newer cigar smoker, it's nothing that's going to be too strong, that you can still enjoy it. And on the other hand, if you are a very avid smoker, it's something that is still interesting enough and it still uses really phenomenal tobaccos and has such a great flavor to it that even if you tend to gravitate towards a more full-bodied cigar, the flavor has enough to keep you interested. The next in line would be the Inspirado Black. So that's a Connecticut broadleaf Maduro that we grow domestically. And that wrapper comes from the same field as our Partagas Black wrapper, and that's going to be that really quintessential Maduro. You get the cocoa, the coffee notes, very rich, very oily. Looks very intimidating with that really dark brown wrapper, but it's still only like a medium plus, and not a ton of spice to it. Like I said, a little bit more of those natural cocoa and coffee notes. There's no infusion or anything. Just by the nature of the tobacco, you're able to pick those up. And then, of course, would be the green. So that's going to fall in line similarly to the body of the black, but give you a completely different flavor profile. So using that Brazilian Arapiraca for the wrapper, you get that earthiness, the sweetness, the spiciness, all that you would expect from a Brazilian wrapper. And we're using Indonesian tobacco for the binder, and then Colombian and Dominican for the filler. So we're really tapping into like those South American tobaccos, and it really brings a nice balance to the cigar. then of course would be our Inspirado Red, which is going to be the most full-bodied selection. And that we're using Ligero both for the wrapper and then one of the fillers. So Ecuadorian Habano for the wrapper, and then all Nicaraguan and Honduran filler. And what's cool is that we're using very aged tobacco. We're using 12-year, 10-year, and 5-year-old tobacco. So you're getting the flavor and the strength, but it's not going to be bitey at all.
So Laurel,
Yes, Gary.
now that you've told us everything we ever wanted to know about Inspirado, you have a favorite?
Oh, absolutely, the orange. And I talk about that all the time. I have.
That's mine too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what's interesting though, that we're smoking the green? The green is a very close contender. The orange is my favorite for a couple of reasons. I like it because I just think, honestly, it's a fantastic cigar. I can smoke it in the morning before I eat, and it's going to be flavorful and complex and holds my interest, but it's not too strong. I can smoke it after a meal. I can pair it really with anything I want to drink. And for me, doing like larger events, so at like the trade show or any of the big smoker festivals where I'm smoking multiple cigars a day, I can literally just smoke like 5 orange back to back and not be bored. It's just a very versatile smoke. Kind of when we went through the description, I talked about the orange being a really good kind of like catch-all cigar for everybody's palate. So if you're a newer smoker and you want something that is going to be interesting and flavorful but not too overpowering, the orange is a good option. It's also a good option for somebody who is a seasoned smoker who still wants the flavor and the complexity. So if you're buying a box of cigars for a group and you've got people from all over the board in smoking experience, the orange is a really good cigar for that.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with you. I think also why it's one of my favorites is not only for a lot of the reasons you stated, but because I kind of have a thing for Honduran tobaccos. And,
Okay.
it's just a really great Honduran cigar. It's really well balanced. And I kind of like this one too. In fact, let's take a look at it. The ash is really nice.
Yes, it holds an ash very, very well.
It's burning evenly, you like that. And what are you getting out of it? I'm getting a little like, I'm still getting kind of like a lot of earthiness and some spice.
Yeah, I'm at that point as well. Usually my experience with the greens is about like the first inch and a half in is when the sweetness really starts to open up. So I'm kind of in that like sweet, earthy spice realm right now. And then I feel like it kind of increases in power a little bit until you get to the band, and that's where the real sweet spot is, where like all those flavors fully open up. I mean, I think a good cigar should be very dynamic in that, you know, it changes as you smoke it, and it should only get better.
Absolutely. And I can tell that I'm just sort of on the precipice of this rounding out. Let me ask you a question. You are the brand ambassador, or at least one of the brand ambassadors for General.
That is correct.
Tell us a little what a brand ambassador does.
Oh, Gary, a little bit of everything. So my primary position is traveling around and running retail events. So I'm on the road about 48 weeks of the year, mostly via plane. So I cover the entire United States, and then last year started going into Canada a little bit, as much as we can. Canada is a tricky with the regulations and taxation. So running retail events and kind of just doing like really grassroots training and exposure to Macanudo and this evolution of what the brand is. Because a lot of people think, oh, you know, Macanudo, I've smoked it 20 years ago. What's new? What do they have for me? But it isn't what you remember. I mean, obviously, we're not discounting those core blends like our Cafe series with the Portofino and the Court and the Hyde Park. People tell me all the time that's what they started out on. And of course, those blends are still very significant to us. It's still our best-selling cigar. But the Inspirado series is so different and so unique, and it's kind of our response to keeping up with market trends and using more unique tobaccos and approaching the brand from kind of a different perspective. So just being able to go out and really have that one-on-one time with consumers and retailers and get them to think differently about the brand. So that's my primary role. And then like interviews and media stuff like this. Obviously, I am kind of out there being sort of like the face of Inspirado, and then also in the blend selection and like new blend development. So have a hand in that as well. So we actually we go down to the factory usually at least once a year, and then sometimes we'll meet in Miami and have the factory guys come up and we'll go over blends. So actually, we just wrapped up going over blends for 2021. So being part of that selection process is very, very fun for me too, because I love being able to be part of the development.
And so how'd you end up in this business? I mean,
Good luck and people I know.
I mean, like, when did you start getting into cigars? I mean, it's
So I started actively getting into cigars my freshman year of college, which was 2009. Yeah, 2009.
okay.
So I live in Milwaukee, and I went to college in Milwaukee, and there was a cigar shop downtown, which is where I ended up working. And I had some friends who stumbled upon it, and I had smoked a couple cigars prior to that really just didn't like hit well with me. And then we started going there because being not 21, we still wanted a way to be social. So we were going to cigar shops and hookah bars. And so I started going to the cigar shop all the time, and the staff there was great. So they introduced me to products that I actually really enjoyed. And I was like, okay, yeah, I can get on board with this. So I was a customer there for a couple of years, and then I ended up taking a job there. I had stopped going to school for a while. So I took a job there, and I ended up working there for about 6 years, and then went back to finish my undergrad, and ended up getting a job with General as an event manager. And then after about 6 months as an event manager, I got approached for being in an ambassador position. And eventually we settled on Macanudo, and that's where I am now.
That's great. That's great. That's a great brand to represent too. So I finally hit the sweet spot.
Okay.
For me, for now. I mean, I can feel that sweetness, or taste that sweetness, I should say, coming on. It's really nice, and it's really smooth. And I guess, when you take a brand like Macanudo, and which you were saying, like how it's kind of like one of these brands that goes back a long time, maybe to some people's fathers and grandfathers and stuff, and it's kind of been like, I take it that the Inspirado line is marketed toward a younger, hipper group, but you have to maintain that Macanudo smoothness and quality. You can't, that it's all got to be happening. And I guess it's sort of like a boutique version of a Macanudo.
Well, exactly. And it's interesting that you say that, because kind of my approach to it is, Macanudo is never going to be a boutique brand. I mean, it's sold itself out of that category a long time ago. But this is kind of our response to that. So again, we definitely don't want to discount any of the original Macanudos, because they still, I mean, the Macanudo Cafe is literally our bread and butter. It's still our #1 selling cigar.
Really? Wow.
Yep. But this is just, we don't want to tell people not to smoke the Macanudo Cafe. And it's interesting, the demographic of people coming towards the Inspirado, because it's people just kind of entering the industry or the category and newer to cigar smoking. And then it's people who maybe haven't had a Macanudo in 10 years. And they were like, oh, this is different. This is interesting. It's new. It's keeping up with what they have been smoking from other brands, and kind of bringing them back to, I don't know, to their roots of when they started, if that makes sense. But just with that new development. So we use the phrase an evolution of an icon. And I think that really is just like the perfect embodiment of what is happening. We're doing more limited releases. Last year we did the Palladium and the Heritage Nuevo. We expanded into our flavor realm. We have the M coffee as well as the bourbon, and now the Inspirado line. And the development we have is just amazing. So it's a really cool brand to be on right now, because it's moving forward so quickly, and it's gaining a lot of really positive attention. So it's been fun.
Yeah, you mentioned the M coffee, and I got to tell you, I don't really smoke a lot of these flavored cigars, but when I do, it's usually a coffee one. That has got to be one of the best. I haven't met anyone who doesn't like that M coffee. Everyone loves it.
Yeah, and it hits really well for people who are not flavored smokers. Like you, I would never have considered myself to be a flavored smoker. So when we released it, I was like, yeah, I'll smoke it, I'll try it, but I don't know how on board I'm going to be. And I had it, and I was like, dang, this is a really good cigar. And when we released it at our trade show, I think it was 2018 is when we did the M coffee. I smoked so many of those at the show, but for me, my biggest issue with flavored cigars was always, if I smoked one in the morning, like the coffee is really good for the morning, I didn't want it to like taint my palate for anything else I'd smoke, but I could literally smoke the coffee and then move on to the green, and I'm not going to get any of that residual flavor, which is very important to me.
That's interesting. That's really interesting. So anyway, this so far, I guess I've gotten past the first inch by now. It's been very consistent. It's very nice. It's very relaxing. And speaking of coffee, I'm having coffee with my cigar as usual. What are you drinking with yours?
This is my matcha super green tea.
You know, a lot of people I've met lately have like tea with cigars.
Uh,
I never would.
yeah, I wouldn't necessarily say it's like I'm intending on pairing the tea with the cigar. Tea is
Right.
just what I
It's
drink
just yeah.
primarily.
Hmm.
And to be honest, depending on what I'm smoking, I will tailor what I'm drinking towards it. So I have a cocoa mint tea. So if I'm smoking the M, it goes really, really well with the M because you get some of those cocoa notes from the tea. And I like the matcha green in particular with the Inspirado green, not because it shares a color, but because this has like a lot of sweetness to it. So I
Yeah.
think it pairs really well with like the subtle sweetness of the cigar.
What you know what I wanted to get from you right now is what are you tasting right now? What are you getting out of the cigar?
Right now, I'm still getting a little bit of the sweetness, but I'm getting a little bit more spice coming through. I'm a really slow smoker, so you've probably caught up with me by now. Oh,
Oh,
you've
let me
surpassed
see.
me. So yeah, I'm still in like kind of that sweet area. I
Yeah,
feel
yeah,
like
and
as
it
it gets
is.
closer to the band is when that
Hmm.
spice really opens up.
It's really good. You know, yeah, people who watch this program on a pretty regular basis know that I like cigars that have some nice sweetness to them.
Okay.
Um, so this is definitely like in my wheelhouse, that's for sure. Would you say this is a complex cigar?
I would, yes, because even as it changes as you smoke it, I think that every point of the smoking experience delivers. It's not flat. It's still, if there's sweetness, it's still accompanied by spice. Maybe as you get into it more, the spice opens up more and it becomes a little bit more powerful, but you're still getting multiple flavors working together through the entire cigar. So I would say it's a very complex cigar. And I think Brazilian tobacco by nature is more complex than others.
Really? Hmm. Now, this is a Raparaca, right? I
Correct.
think Mac. I think Mac. I think that the Brazilian Matafina. That's what I started saying. I think that the Matafina tends to be a little bit sweeter
I would agree with
than
that,
the
yes.
Araparaca, but this is really, really nice. And it's got a really nice color to it. And again, look at this ash, I mean, it's
Yeah.
just really good. And I will say it is pretty consistent with the one I had the other day. It sweetened up really nicely and then it kind of, matures, so to speak, and becomes a little more, full flavored.
Yeah.
Would you say this, I don't know if this is a full bodied cigar, probably like medium plus
Yeah,
maybe,
I
I don't
would
know. What do you think?
say medium. When we went through the different blends of the Inspirado, um, I think I put it next to the black. So the black is going to kind of fall into that medium plus range, and this is going to yield a very different flavor. But body wise, I would say it's very in line with that. Whereas like yeah, that
Hmm.
medium kind of towing the line of medium plus.
Okay. It's really cool. So, since you represent a lot of these cigars for General, the cigars that you represent, are there any that you wish more cigar smokers were aware of? That say, oh, I wish more people would be aware of this cigar or smoke more of this cigar. It's really, really good. I don't know,
Oh,
that they're
absolutely. I
missing
have
it.
this conversation a lot, actually. So starting with Macanudo, I think the cigar that people don't really think about is the Macanudo 1968. I don't know
Ah.
if you've had one or the last time you've had one, but I
Hmm.
think that's the most underrated Macanudo in our portfolio. It uses one of my favorite tobaccos in the filler, which is Ometepe. And it's just, I think it's also ahead of its time, or it was ahead of its time when it was released, because people who wanted a Macanudo didn't necessarily want a fuller bodied cigar, and people who wanted a fuller bodied cigar didn't equate it with the name Macanudo. So I think that people who try the blend now, especially thinking differently about the brand as in its entirety, are
Hmm.
blown away by it. It's a very complex, very unique cigar. So I think that is incredibly underrated. If we're looking at the company as a whole, our Excalibur Cameroon is going to
Ah.
Yeah, I think that
Yes, that
is
is another good one. Yeah.
one of the best cigars that we make. I'm also a sucker for a Cameroon wrapper.
Okay.
So maybe I'm a little biased, but I love the Excalibur Cameroon, as well as the Hoyo de Tradition, if you remember that one.
Oh, you just said the magic
Yeah,
word because I just bought a box of those. I love
they're
that cigar.
phenomenal.
Isn't that the greatest? And you know what else I like about it? It looks like a Cuban, you
Hmm.
know. So like you're sitting at the bar, whatever, and faking people out a little bit. But it really is a wonderful, wonderful cigar.
It is, and
And
that's kind of the cigar that, well, not kind of, it is the cigar that put General on the map for me. Um,
really,
when I worked retail,
hmm
my old boss gave me the Hoya Day Tradition for my 21st birthday. And
oh,
I was relatively new at the store and was trying to like smoke through everything. And I hadn't had a lot of experience with General product. And so that was the first cigar that was really like, wow, okay, this is an amazing cigar and I need to smoke more from this company. So I think it holds a special place in my heart, but I also think that I can describe it similarly to how I describe the orange, where it's just,
yes, I was
it's
just going
so
to say that.
subtle, but there's so much going on like at the
hmm
same time.
hmm It has a little
And
bit of a Cuban character to it too, in terms
mhm,
of, the way it's, I don't know, just, I don't know. There's something about I guess you really have to smoke it to know, but it just has a certain character to it that reminds me a little bit of a Cuban. But it's again, here's another, pardon me. Here again, you have another, Honduran blend,
mhm.
and yeah, so I could see the comparison to the orange. I just hope they keep making that cigar. That's all, because I really,
Well,
really
if I
love
have
that.
anything to do with it, they will not stop making that cigar. Do you remember the Hoyo Prensado Oscuro? We discontinued it a couple of years ago.
Yes.
That was a phenomenal cigar. I
Yeah.
actually just got a box of those about like 6 months ago. I was in Maryland, and the
hmm
rep and I, we found a box. We're like, oh my God, we have to buy these. So most of the stuff that I put in my humidor, I mean, I don't care. Like, I'll smoke it. My husband smokes it. Our friends will smoke them. I'm not really like possessive over cigars unless they're like specialty.
yeah.
But I wrote on that box, I was like, Laurel cigars do not soak.
hmm hmm I also got a sample of the new Macanudo Gold label.
Yeah, so the
It's
gold is something we do as a yearly release, but we just come up with different sizes. So that's a new size for sure. But it's a phenomenal blend.
yeah, I mean, as mild cigars go, or mellow, I think you have to say today, mellow.
Yeah.
As mellow cigars go, I think that is probably one of the best. The Macanudo Gold label. It's really, again, it's sweet, so I like it, but it's just like super high quality. But I want to get back to Hoyo de Monterrey for a minute because
Sure.
um, I just wrote a article that's coming out on Rothschild cigars.
Okay.
And the Hoyo de Monterrey, I think, was the brand, the Cuban Monterrey, that
Hmm.
made the first Rothschild for Baron Leopold de Rothschild.
Okay.
And I wanted to include it in, I said, you got to include this in your article. I mean, it's like the first one.
Oh yeah.
And I especially like the Maduro and the Oscuro,
Okay.
and it's such a cool size. Well, they're sold out, so I couldn't feature it. But
I'm sorry.
that tells you something about the cigar too. I mean, they're sold out. I mean, it's just a hot little cigar that's been bopping around for ages, and it's just
Yeah.
great.
And it's a great size too.
Yeah, it is. It's just right. So anyhow, I'm really digging this.
Cool. The Macanudo Gold. So what's
hmm
interesting about that is it's actually the same blend as our Cafe series. It's simply
Really?
taken from a lower priming. So for the wrapper, we use what's considered a true golden Connecticut. So only the bottom few leaves are available for us to have what's considered that golden Connecticut. But taken from a lower priming on the plant, there's more sugar concentration at the base of the stalk. So
Oh,
it's going to
okay.
yield a sweeter flavor. So if you like that sweetness, like you were saying, you tend to gravitate towards a little bit naturally sweeter cigars. That's probably why you really like that gold, because we're still
I
using the
do.
Connecticut shade grown domestically, the Mexican San Andrean, and Dominican filler, but it's just being taken from a lower priming.
Wow, it's interesting because I always thought that the cigar, even though the tobaccos at the higher priming level are bolder, they're also a little sweeter too. So what's the catch in terms of the lower priming being so sweet?
Well, so the lower priming being sweet is because the stalk of the tobacco plant has a lot of sugars in it, and being so close to the base of it, the sugars are basically like kind of stopping at those leaves. So when we do something called a stalk cut, so if you look at like our Inspirado Black, in the curing process, as opposed to taking the tobacco off of the stalk and then putting them in the hands and then hanging them upside down, we actually spear the entire stalk, which gives it additional time for those sugars to kind of seep down into the tobacco. So the top of the plant is the Ligero. Ligero is very, very strong, and usually people equate it with strength, which is correct. But on its own, it doesn't have a ton of flavor. It's got a little bit of sweetness, but it's also a little bit bitter. So we need to have other tobaccos in the blend to ensure proper balance and also combustion, because on its own, Ligero doesn't smoke very well. You can have the sweetness of the leaves towards the bottom without needing to have other leaves in there to balance it out, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So you get a little bit more, it's a little bit more focused on those as opposed to the Ligero, which is an aspect of the cigar, but it's not like the focal point.
Right. I didn't realize they were stalk cut. That's interesting.
Yeah,
that's
the
way
black
to do it.
is, yeah.
Yeah. Let me ask you about your job again. Now, you do a lot of traveling when you're able to travel.
Yes.
Right now, you're not able to travel. None of us are able to travel. So, like, what's next? Like, how are visiting stores after the shelter in place? How do you think that's going to go? Do you think a lot of the stores will still be in business?
I think
how
so.
are you going to figure on handling that?
Well, it's funny. I was actually just talking to Sean Williams, our Cohiba ambassador, earlier
Yeah.
today, and he was talking about what's going to happen at the end of the year when we are able to go back, and we're like, yeah, we're not going to have any time, because it's basically going to try to be making up for lost time. I mean, I would think that most stores are going to be able to survive. I think we'll be very busy, doing events and trying to kind of rebuild what we lost in this time. But I think to a point there's a benefit, because I think there's going to be a real craving for events and social interactions. So I think it'll be good. And especially with like the launch of the new green, not only are we going to be able to get back into accounts and run these events, but there's also new products coming out. So I think there will be a lot of excitement. I just think we'll be very, very busy.
Right, I hope so. So where are you at now? I just took the band off.
Okay, so yeah, still slower, but definitely getting that spice opening up. What about you?
Oh yeah, definitely. It's kind of like locked in right now, and kind of a sweet spicy mix with sort of, I guess there's some wood bouncing around in there, kind of like a woody note, and a little bit of a leathery note. It's just really, it tastes. I wasn't sure if I caught the entire core blend that you described, but it has kind of a Nicaraguan thing going on in it.
Okay, which is interesting because we don't use any Nicaraguan tobacco.
Well, I would have guessed that there was some Nicaraguan in here. So
yeah, it's
kudos to you, I guess.
It's the Arapiraca wrapper, Indonesian binder, and then Colombian and Dominican filler.
Oh, Colombian, Dominican. Okay.
Yeah, so maybe the Colombian
is
where you're getting a little bit from.
Yeah, it could be where I'm getting some of that spice. What would you say the cigar is for? If you had to recommend it.
I would say it's for the people who want something that is accessible but a little bit different. So when we were looking into developing the cigar, we always want to be cognizant of what else is out there. And there's really not a lot out there on the scale of Macanudo that uses this Arapiraca wrapper. So it's for the person who wants something unique that uses different tobaccos. So the Arapiraca on its own is unique. We've been pretty good as a company about using Brazilian tobacco. I mean, CAO is a really good example, both with the Brazilian and then like our Amazon Basin series. But then kind of playing into the different South American tobaccos and like Colombian tobacco and Indonesian tobacco. So it's bringing like a very interesting balance to what we hope is a very ubiquitous cigar. I mean, the entire Inspirado series, I would say, is fairly prevalent. So, our hope would be that this is going to be in line with that. So just being able to bring a fun, unique cigar and make it accessible to the masses.
Yeah, and I can see, smoking this, I'm enjoying this now here. We're taping this in the afternoon, and I could see having this after dinner. You know, I
Hmm.
think I think it's elegant enough to smoke after dinner. What would you recommend pairing it with?
You know that I was just thinking about that. I'm like, if I could pair this with anything, I would probably pair it with like a Moscow Mule.
Oh, okay.
Because I like the ginger beer is going to provide a little bit of that sweetness and a little bit of that bite. And then you have the
Hmm.
citrus aspect of the lime, which I think will go well. And the vodka doesn't really provide a ton of flavor on its own, but it's still smooth and very drinkable. And I think it still allows for the flavors of the cigar to come through, but you
Yeah,
have that nice balance from like the ginger beer and the citrus.
yeah. I was going to say it probably could go with a bourbon, but I wouldn't want to do a bourbon that was too sweet because
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of sweetness already in here, and it might be overkill.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas, I think maybe a single malt like Macallan, which I like,
Yeah.
would be really nice with this, or even a rum. But again, the rum not too sweet,
Yeah.
or
Well,
maybe a
this has a
mixed drink with the
very
rum.
And this has, a pretty, in my opinion, intense flavor. So I don't want something that is going to be too overpowering. And that's always my thing about pairings. Like, honestly, if you're happy with the drink and you're happy with the cigar and they go well together and they're not making the flavors weird, then, by all means, smoke and drink whatever you want together. But first, just the Moscow Mule, it's just is very refreshing and it's
Mm.
flavorful, but it's not overpowering. So I think it would go well with this.
I think I may try that. Now, you grew up in Milwaukee. Are you a beer drinker?
I am. Yeah. So I grew up about an hour south of Milwaukee in Lake Geneva. I probably don't know where that is because it's Wisconsin. But yeah, I am a big beer drinker. Um, I'm good for like 2 beers before I just get too full. That's my only
Really?
issue with them. But we have access to so many amazing craft breweries around here.
Really? I
Um,
can imagine that. It must be the beer capital of the world, I guess, or the United States for that matter, right?
Yeah, and it's pretty cool. Where we live, there's a bike path that'll take you basically to the lakefront and all around the
Mm.
city and like the surrounding suburbs. But if you take the trail about maybe a mile from where I live, there's a brewery there. So every time you go past, it smells like baking bread,
Oh
and
yeah.
it's amazing. I love it. I'll
Hey,
go by. I'm like, I'm gonna go home and eat bread now.
so let me ask you, since a lot of our followers at Cigar Advisor are beer guys, what
Okay.
would you recommend a beer with this cigar, with the Macanudo Green Inspirado?
Um, if I was going to do any beer with this, I would probably do like a Scotch style ale.
What's that? Because I'm totally ignorant of beer.
So I'm trying to think if we have any from local breweries. I'm not sure. I know, I think it's out of Grand Rapids. Founders, they do one called the Dirty Bastard. That's a Scotch style ale.
Oh, I've
So
heard of that.
so I'm not sure what the exact process is. I don't know if they're using like Scotch barrels or something. To be honest, I'm not sure totally about the ins and outs, but it definitely is going to provide a little bit of that sweetness and some of like those Scotch characteristics.
Hmm.
And it's a really good balanced beer, and I think it would pair well with this. Otherwise, are you familiar with like a Maibach?
No, not really. I like wimpy beers. I like,
Okay.
like the wheat beers and the Belgian white and the whatever.
Yeah.
I'm
So
really not a
like a
beer
Blue
guy.
Moon, that kind of deal.
I have to be really, really thirsty to have a beer.
Okay.
I don't know why. I never really acquired a taste for it. But I mean, some of these guys are like, man, they really know their stuff. I mean, like craft beers. I work with some guys who are like amazing when
So
it
is your
comes to.
go-to like a Scotch or a bourbon then for a drink?
Yeah, usually. Yeah, well, I like vodka too, but like you said, vodka is kind of, vodka really doesn't have much flavor, so it depends on what you mix it with.
Yeah.
But I kind of like having. Sometimes I'll have like a vodka and tonic because I like the tonic is kind of good, has a little citrusy note to it, and it
Yeah.
kind of cleans the palate. But yeah, bourbon. I'm really getting more into bourbons lately.
Okay.
I was going to bring down some Woodford Reserve actually to smoke with this today, but that might be a good pairing if you like bourbon. It's not
Yeah.
super sweet. It's got a nice quality to it. So anyway, I'm going to ask you one more thing. This cigar, what about its value? Is this a, would you call this a good value for the price?
Oh, I would say so. Yeah. I mean, this is going to fall in line with the rest of our Inspirado series as far as pricing. So depending on where you are, it's going to be about like a $7.50 to $8 cigar. And I think for the smoking quality, the consistency, the tobaccos we're using, I mean, I very much so think it's a very great cigar for the value.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the entire Inspirado series can be said for the whole line. I mean, take the red, for example. I mean, we're using such aged tobacco in it. We're using 12, 10, and 5-year aged tobacco. So you're getting the strength, but it's not going to be bitey. And that's still only like an $8 cigar. The benefit is that being a bigger company, we are able to be vertically integrated and, or own a portion of the tobacco that we are outsourcing. So we have access to these amazing tobaccos in larger quantities, so we're able to keep the prices very competitive.
Well, I got to tell you, I'm getting now into the last third, and it's definitely getting a little more earthy. Some of the sweetness is sort of moved off a little bit to the side, a little earth has moved in, a little more spice, but it's really well balanced. And I think that's a real big key to me. It's got to be balanced. Everything's got to be informed, even if it's not a sweet cigar. I mean, I was talking to a guy last night, and he says, what's with, you don't like strong cigars or something, or, I said, well, it's not that I don't like strong cigars. I don't like cigars that are overpowering to the point where they get they're heady and they're very, very peppery. But this is, if it has just the right amount of pepper, and I can appreciate, that those nice, those complexities, you have a little pepper, a little sweet, some nuttiness, some wood, So I think that's good too. I like a cigar that kind of keeps me, sometimes I like a cigar that I don't really have to think about, but other times I like a cigar that I can sort of say, Let's have your final thoughts on the Macanudo Inspirado Green Robusto.
So kind of drawing back to what we were talking about earlier, I honestly think that this is going to be a close competitor to my love affair with the Inspirado Orange.
Okay.
It's definitely something.
It's in there. It's in the park.
I think it's going to take a lot to top that cigar for me. But yeah, I very much enjoy it. And I think it's one of the cigars too that isn't too intense, so I could be able to smoke it in the morning or without having eaten anything and still enjoy it. It holds my interest, so if I'm smoking multiple of these a day, I don't see myself getting bored with them. But no, I'm very, very, very happy with the way that the green came out. We've been working on this for a while, so to see the end result in like its full form and finally being able to come out to market and have everybody else be able to experience it, it's very exciting. So I'm pleased with it.
Well, I agree. I think it's a terrific cigar. I think a lot of people are really going to like this cigar too, especially the guys that are, kind of lean toward the boutique kind of stuff. And I just want to say thank you for coming on today. It's been really great to talk to you. And
it's been great to talk to you too. It's always nice to talk to other people. You're cooped up in your house all the time.
Have you been having any after work Zoom happy hours?
Doing a lot of Zoom. Not too much socially. On Saturday nights, we play Mario Kart with our friends, and we do that via, not Zoom, it's another platform, House Party. But I actually have a Zoom cocktail hour coming up with a couple of my colleagues next week, so that'll be fun.
All right. Well, anyway, Laurel, I want to thank you again. And remember that all Macanudo Inspirado cigars are available at famous-smoke.com, as well as all of the other fine selections from General Cigar. And for more smoking advice and information, please visit us at cigaradvisor.com and sign up for our email list. You can also follow Cigar Advisor on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. And if you like the cigar, please like this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Click the bell to be notified when one of our new Cigar Advisor videos is uploaded. That's all for now. Laurel, thank you once again for coming on.
Thank you, Gary.
I really want to appreciate it. Hope you get through this okay, and we'll be seeing each other in person sometime soon. So everybody, see you next time, and thanks for joining us, and happy.
Thank you.